There was a time in American history when a single step toward freedom could mean death. In the silent darkness of forests and swamps, where every distant sound might signal danger, one fearless woman repeatedly chose to risk everything so that strangers could live as free human beings. Slave catchers hunted her. Massive rewards were offered for her capture. Yet she never stopped returning to the very place she had escaped. That extraordinary woman was Harriet Tubman, a name that would become a symbol of courage, sacrifice, and unwavering determination. Born around 1822 in Dorchester County, Maryland, Harriet entered a world where slavery stripped people of their identities, families, and futures. Known at birth as Araminta Ross, she was raised in harsh conditions, witnessing the cruelty of forced labor from an early age. As a young child, she was separated from family members and hired out to different households, where beatings and exhausting work became part of everyday life. One of the defining moments of her childhood occurred when she tried to protect another enslaved person from punishment. An overseer threw a heavy iron weight that missed its intended target and struck Harriet in the head instead. The devastating injury left her with lifelong headaches, sudden sleeping spells, and vivid dreams, yet it never weakened her determination. Deeply rooted faith became her greatest source of strength, and she believed that God had chosen her for a greater purpose. While countless enslaved people dreamed of freedom, Harriet began to believe that escape was not simply a possibility, but a responsibility. Every hardship she endured slowly transformed fear into resilience, preparing her for a journey that would eventually change hundreds of lives and alter the course of American history forever. As Harriet Tubman grew older, the world around her became more suffocating, and the idea of remaining in bondage began to feel impossible to accept. Every day on the plantation reinforced the same truth. No matter how hard she worked or how much pain she endured, freedom would never be granted willingly. Instead, it would have to be taken through courage and risk. The memory of her injury and the suffering of those around her stayed deeply fixed in her mind, shaping a growing belief that her life had to mean something beyond survival. In secret, she began to listen carefully to stories of escape, whispers carried among enslaved people about distant northern states where slavery was outlawed. These fragments of hope slowly formed into a dangerous plan inside her heart. When the opportunity finally came, Harriet made a decision that would change everything. Leaving meant abandoning the only world she had ever known, including her family, her community, and every familiar place tied to her past. The emotional weight of that choice was immense, but the fear of remaining enslaved was greater. Under the cover of night, she began her escape, moving carefully through fields and forests she knew so well during the day, but now felt unfamiliar and threatening in darkness. Every sound of rustling leaves or distant movement could mean capture, yet she continued forward with relentless determination. Guided by limited knowledge and whispered directions from those who had gone before her, she navigated toward freedom step by step, relying on instinct, faith, and endurance. The journey was not a single moment of triumph, but a long and dangerous passage through uncertainty. Rivers had to be crossed, paths avoided, and every stranger encountered could either offer help or betray her. In those long nights of movement, fear and hope existed side by side, but hope slowly began to take control. Harriet was no longer simply escaping a plantation. She was stepping into. Freedom did not bring Harriet Tubman peace. Instead, it gave her a mission that few people would have dared to accept. Safe in the North, she could have built a quiet life and left the horrors of slavery behind, but the faces of her family and countless others still trapped in bondage never left her thoughts. Knowing that every return to Maryland could end with her capture or death, Harriet made an extraordinary decision. She would go back. Again and again, She secretly crossed into slaveholding territory, guided by trusted contacts, hidden routes, and the growing network that became known as the Underground Railroad. Despite its name, it was not a real railroad, but a carefully organized system of safe houses, courageous abolitionists, and hidden pathways that helped enslaved people escape to freedom. Harriet became one of its most respected conductors, traveling mostly under the cover of darkness and relying on her remarkable memory, survival skills, and unwavering faith. She carried no official authority, yet her calm leadership inspired absolute trust among those who followed her through forests, marshes, rivers, and remote back roads. Every journey demanded silence, patience, and courage, as slave catchers, reward notices, and armed patrols searched relentlessly for fugitives. Harriet understood that hesitation could place everyone in danger, so she kept her groups moving with discipline and determination until they reached safety. Over the years, she successfully guided dozens of escape missions and helped lead approximately 70 enslaved people directly to freedom, while assisting many more through information, planning, and support. Her reputation spread across the country, earning her the enduring title Moses, after the biblical leader who guided his people out of oppression. What made Harriet truly extraordinary was not only her courage, but her refusal to abandon those still suffering when she herself had already found freedom. Harriet Tubman's courage extended far beyond the Underground Railroad. When the American Civil War erupted in 1861, the conflict transformed the struggle against slavery into a battle that would determine the future of the nation itself. Refusing to remain on the sidelines, Harriet offered her knowledge, experience, and extraordinary bravery to the Union Army. At first, she worked as a nurse, caring for wounded soldiers and formerly enslaved people who had escaped into Union-controlled territory. She also served as a cook, using herbal remedies she had learned throughout her life to help treat illness when medical supplies were limited. Yet Harriet's greatest contribution came through intelligence gathering. Her deep understanding of the Southern landscape, combined with the trust she had earned among local African American communities, allowed her to collect valuable information about Confederate positions, supply routes, and hidden waterways. Union commanders soon recognized that her experience moving secretly through dangerous territory made her an exceptional scout and guide. In June 1863, Harriet played a vital role in the Combahee River Raid in South Carolina, working alongside Colonel James Montgomery. Guided by intelligence gathered through her network, Union forces traveled along the river, destroyed Confederate resources, and liberated more than 700 enslaved men, women, and children. It was one of the most successful military operations involving the rescue of enslaved people during the Civil War and made Harriet Tubman the first woman in United States history known to help lead an armed military expedition. Although she performed remarkable service, Harriet received little recognition or financial compensation during the war itself. Nevertheless, she remained devoted to the cause of freedom, believing that true justice required both courage in battle and compassion for those whose lives had been shaped by oppression.